She was 18 years old, walking to a friend's house in Westchester, Pennsylvania on an ordinary afternoon in May 1972. 2 weeks before high school graduation. Yellow Corvette pulls up. Driver, a 27-year-old man with wild hair, wilder reputation. "Get in," he says. She does. Within hours, she's on the road. Within weeks, she's on the cover of Hot Rod magazine wearing hot pants and go-go boots in front of a 7,000 horsepower funny car. Within months, every teenage boy in America has her poster on their wall. For 4 years, Pamela Hardy, known to the world as Jungle Pam, was the most famous woman in drag racing. She never drove a car. She never turned a wrench. But she staged funny cars in front of 50,000 screaming fans while wearing outfits that stopped traffic. She poured bleach for burnouts that shook the ground. She crawled under 200 miles per hour machines to check for leaks moments before launch. Then, on September 9, 1977, at 4:30 in the morning, everything shattered. The man who discovered her, Russell James Jungle Jim Liberman, drove his yellow Corvette into a SEPTA transit bus at over 100 miles per hour. He died instantly at age 31. Jungle Pam never staged another funny car. She walked away from the sport that made her famous and never looked back. But the story you think you know? That's not the real story. Now, at 70 years old in 2024, she's finally being recognized. Inducted into the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame in 2024. Married to her third husband, Bill Hodgson. Still connected to the nostalgia funny car circuit. Still the most iconic backup girl in racing history. This is the heartbreaking life and tragic end of Jungle Pam. Pamela Hardy was born on March 19, 1954, in Westchester, Pennsylvania, a small suburban town 25 miles west of Philadelphia. Details about her family remain scarce. She's never publicly discussed her parents' names or occupations. What we know is this: she grew up in working-class Pennsylvania in the 1950s and 60s, during the height of American car culture. Westchester in the 1960s was quiet. Tree-lined streets. Friday night football. Kids rode bikes. Families went to church. Nothing suggested that one of its teenage girls would become the most photographed woman in American motorsports. By all accounts, Pam was normal. She attended local schools. She had friends. She was pretty, strikingly so, but not in a way that drew unwanted attention. She wasn't a cheerleader. She wasn't prom queen. She was just Pamela Hardy, counting down the days until graduation in May 1972. What she didn't know about drag racing could fill volumes. Funny cars. Nitromethane. Burnouts. Staging. The NHRA circuit. The match racing scene. None of it meant anything to her. She'd never been to a drag strip. Never watched a race. Never cared. At 18, her biggest concern was what came after high school. College? A job? Marriage? The options felt ordinary. Safe. Predictable. Then came that afternoon in May 1972. 2 weeks before graduation. She's walking down the street. A yellow 1971 Chevrolet Corvette pulls up slowly beside her. The driver, Russell James Liberman, known across America as Jungle Jim. He's 27. He's famous in the drag racing world. He's just divorced his wife, Roberta Bobby Liberman, in October 1972. He's driving through Pennsylvania between racing events. He sees Pam. He stops. He talks to her. The details of that first conversation remain private, but the result is public record. Within hours, Pamela Hardy agrees to join Jungle Jim on the drag racing circuit. No experience. No training. Just a teenage girl and a yellow Corvette heading toward a destiny she never planned. Years later, she'd describe it as a spur-of-the-moment decision. That moment changed everything. On June 1, 1972, Pamela Hardy became Jungle Pam Hardy. She hits the drag racing circuit with Jungle Jim Liberman, and the sport never sees anything like her. Her job, backup girl. Officially called a bug in drag racing terminology. She stages the funny car on the starting line. She pours bleach for the burnout, those spectacular tire smoking displays that heat the rubber for better traction. She crawls under the car seconds before a run to check for fuel leaks that could ignite at 200 miles per hour. She guides the car into position with hand signals while wearing outfits that make every camera in the facility point her direction. What makes her different isn't just what she does. It's how she looks doing it. Hot pants so short they barely qualify as clothing. Halter tops that show everything legal to show. White go-go boots that rise to her knees. Long blonde hair. Tan skin. A smile that could sell anything. In February 1973, less than 9 months after she joins the circuit, she's on the cover of Hot Rod magazine. The headline doesn't mention Jungle Jim. It's all about her. Jungle Pam becomes the face of funny car racing. But here's what people miss. She's not just a pretty face standing there. She's working. Jungle Jim's cars run on nitromethane, highly explosive racing fuel. One mistake staging the car could cost someone their life. She's guiding 3,000-pound machines with 7,000 horsepower. She's handling chemicals that burn skin. She's doing this in front of crowds of 50,000 people, many of them drunk, many of them screaming at her, some throwing things. From 1972 to 1976, Jungle Pam tours the country. They hit drag strips in California, Texas, Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. They run 80 to 100 events per year. That's nearly 2 shows per week. Living out of motels. Eating at truck stops. Driving thousands of miles between events. The money isn't what you'd think. Jungle Jim earns good money. Match racing pays him $2,000 to $5,000 per appearance. But Pam? She's paid a salary, but nowhere near what Jim makes. The real payment comes in fame. By 1974, she's the most recognizable woman in motorsports. Men want her. Women want to be her. Companies want her image. She appears in racing magazines constantly. Racing posters featuring her outsell posters of the actual drivers. Teenage boys across America have her picture on their walls. She becomes a sex symbol, but not in the Hollywood way. She's accessible. Real. Girl next door gorgeous. Not supermodel untouchable. But the lifestyle takes its toll. The nomadic existence. The constant travel. The party scene that follows drag racing in the 1970s. Jungle Jim lives wild. He's famous for driving his funny car backwards at 100 miles per hour after burnouts. He's known for partying as hard as he races. Drugs. Alcohol. Women. The whole rock and roll lifestyle transplanted into motorsports. Pam's relationship with Jim is complicated. They're together constantly. They appear as a couple. But they're never married. She's his girlfriend, his backup girl, his business partner, his traveling companion. The lines blur. The pressure builds. By 1976, the lifestyle catches up. The nomadic party scene weighs on Pam. The constant performances. The male attention. The exhaustion. Jungle Jim's wild behavior. The relationship strains. In late 1976, Jungle Pam and Jungle Jim part ways. Not dramatically. Not publicly. They just stop. Pam steps away from the circuit. Jim continues racing, but the magic is gone. Attendance drops. The show loses its appeal without her. She walks away after only 4 years. 4 years that defined an era. From 1973 to 1975, Jungle Pam is everywhere. But behind the hot pants and the smile, the cost accumulates. In 1973, Jungle Jim's 1973 Chevrolet Vega funny car becomes the most popular exhibition car in America. It's bright. It's fast. It's dangerous. And Jungle Pam is the face of it all. When they roll into a drag strip, the crowd swells. People come to see Jim drive, but they stay to see Pam work. She becomes the draw. But here's what the cameras don't show: the exhaustion, the objectification, the danger. She's 19 years old, standing in front of thousands of people who see her as a fantasy. Men yell things. Graphic things. Some try to touch her. Some follow her. Security at these events in the 1970s is minimal. She's exposed. Vulnerable. There are nights when the travel wears her down. Motels with broken air conditioning in Texas heat. Diners at 2 a.m. between events. No time to rest. No privacy. The circuit demands everything. And the danger is real. Funny cars in the 1970s explode. Engines blow. Fires erupt. She's standing feet away when these machines run. One mistake, a fuel leak she doesn't catch, a staging error, could kill someone. In 1974, they're at a Midwest drag strip. The burnout goes wrong. Tire shreds. Rubber flies into the crowd. People scream. Pam's standing right there. She doesn't flinch. She signals Jim. They reset. They run the race. Nobody sees her hands shaking afterward. But she shows up anyway. Event after event. Year after year. She becomes known as the greatest backup girl in drag racing history. Not because she's the prettiest, though many think she is, but because she's reliable, professional, unshakable. In 1975, Jungle Jim's fame peaks. He's number 17 on the list of top 50 NHRA drivers of all time. His Vega funny car will later be voted the greatest funny car in racing history, beating out John Force's record-setting Firebird. And Pam is beside him for all of it. That night, after a major event, Jim's signing autographs for hours. Pam's standing beside him, smiling for every photo. Her feet ache from the go-go boots. Her skin burns from the sun. She hasn't eaten since breakfast. But she stands there anyway. That's the job. That's the life. Behind the image, the relationship phrase. The lifestyle, the parties, the drinking, the constant travel, becomes too much. They're never home. They're never alone. It's always the next race, the next crowd, the next performance. By 1976, Pam's had enough. She's 22 years old and exhausted. She's given 4 years to drag racing. She's become an icon. But the cost is her youth. Her privacy. Her sense of self outside the hot pants and the bleach bucket. She walks away. Quietly. No press conference. No dramatic exit. She's just gone. What Jungle Pam did transcends drag racing. She became a cultural phenomenon. In 1973, at a time when women in motorsports were rare, Jungle Pam brings femininity to the drag strip without apologizing for it. She's not trying to be one of the guys. She's not hiding her sexuality. She's owning it. Using it. Making it part of the show. For young women in the 1970s, she represents something new, autonomy through image. She's not passive. She's working. She's essential to the operation. Without her, the show doesn't work. But she's doing it on her terms, in her outfits, with her style. The impact ripples beyond racing. Fashion magazines notice. Her hot pants and go-go boots become iconic 1970s style. Women copy her look. The short shorts, the halter tops, the tall boots. It becomes a uniform for a certain kind of feminine rebellion. But she also faces criticism. Feminists of the era question whether she's empowered or exploited. Some argue she's reducing women to sex objects. Others argue she's taking control of her sexuality in a male-dominated space. Pam never engages the debate publicly. She just does her job. The drag racing community loves her. Other drivers' wives and girlfriends sometimes stage cars, but none capture attention like Pam. She becomes the standard. After her, other teams try to replicate the formula. Pretty girl in skimpy outfit, but it never works the same way. Pam has something they can't copy: authenticity. In 1974, a Revell model kit features Jungle Jim's funny car. Pam's image is on the box. The kit becomes one of the best-selling racing models in history. Her face moves product. By 1975, she's more famous than most of the drivers. People who know nothing about drag racing know Jungle Pam. She crosses over from motorsports icon to general pop culture figure. Decades later, she remains the most famous backup girl in racing history. No one else comes close. Her 4-year run defines an entire era of drag racing. When people think of 1970s funny cars, they think of Jungle Jim and Jungle Pam. The relationship between Jungle Pam and Jungle Jim is never simple. They meet in May 1972. She's 18. He's 27. He's recently divorced from Roberta Bobby Good Liberman after 7 years of marriage. They married on August 14, 1965, in Santa Clara, California. They had a son, Randy. The divorce finalizes in October 1972 in Orange, California. 2 weeks after meeting Pam, Jim's divorce isn't even final. But they're on the road together, living together, working together, appearing as a couple. The relationship is real, but it's also performance. They're Jungle Jim and Jungle Pam, a brand, a team, a show. Where does the real relationship end and the performance begin? Even they probably can't say. For 4 years, they live in each other's pockets. Constant travel, constant work, constant public scrutiny. It's intimate and suffocating. By 1976, the lifestyle destroys them. The partying, the pressure, the lack of stability. They split. Pam walks away from the circuit. Jim continues racing, but something's broken. The magic is gone. What Pam never speaks about publicly, the cost of being Jungle Pam. The loss of her late teenage years and early 20s to a lifestyle that consumed everything. She's 22 when she walks away. Most people that age are finishing college, starting careers, figuring out who they are. Pam's already a legend and already exhausted. She returns to normal life. Gets a regular job. Lives quietly. Tries to rebuild some version of normalcy. Then comes September 9, 1977. It's 4:30 in the morning. West Goshen Township, near Westchester, Pennsylvania, Pam's hometown. Jungle Jim is driving his yellow Corvette on the Westchester Pike. He's going fast. Too fast. He rounds a corner at excessive speed. He collides head-on with a SEPTA transit bus. The Corvette wedges under the bumper and under chassis of the bus. Jim dies instantly. He's 31 years old. The news spreads through the drag racing community like fire. Jungle Jim, the showman, the wild man, the legend, is dead. Not on the track. Not in a racing accident. On a regular road. In a streetcar. In the stupidest, most preventable way possible. For Pam, the silence hits hardest. They haven't been together for nearly a year. But he defined her life. He discovered her. He made her famous. Their relationship was complicated, but it was real. She attends the funeral. She doesn't speak publicly. She never returns to drag racing. Jungle Pam's story carries surprisingly few scandals for someone so visible. But the controversies exist, quiet and persistent. The exploitation debate, from 1973 onward, critics question whether Pam is empowered or exploited. Feminist voices of the era argue that reducing a woman to hot pants and a bleach bucket objectifies women in motorsports. They say she sets women back by trading on sexuality rather than skill. But others argue she's in control. She chooses the outfits. She chooses to stay. She's paid. She's working. In a male-dominated sport, she finds a way in and becomes irreplaceable. Is that exploitation or entrepreneurship? Pam never engages. She just works. Years later, she'll say she enjoyed the era. She has no regrets. She owned her role. For her, that's enough. The age gap with Jim, they meet when she's 18 and he's 27. By 2024 standards, that raises eyebrows. In 1972, it barely registers. But looking back, it's impossible to ignore. A 27-year-old man approaches an 18-year-old high school student walking down the street and takes her on the road within hours. Pam has never characterized it as predatory. She's always described their relationship as consensual and genuine. But the power imbalance is undeniable. He's older, established, famous. She's a teenager with no experience in his world. The not ex-wife confusion. Many sources incorrectly identify Pam as Jungle Jim's ex-wife. They were never married. They were partners, boyfriend and girlfriend, a team, but never spouses. The confusion persists because they were so closely linked. Jim's actual ex-wife was Roberta Bobby Good Liberman. They married in 1965 and divorced in 1972. Bobby also toured with Jim, earning the nickname Jungle Bobby. Pam replaced Bobby in Jim's operation and in his personal life. That transition remains largely undiscussed. The overnight fame. Some question how a teenage girl with zero racing experience becomes the face of funny car racing within months. Critics suggest it's purely about looks. Defenders argue she's skilled at the job. Staging cars is dangerous work requiring precision. The truth? Both are right. Her looks get her noticed. Her competence keeps her relevant. Without either, she doesn't become Jungle Pam. The Revell model controversy. When Revell releases the Jungle Gym Funny Car model kit with Pam's image on the box, some retailers refuse to stock it. The reason? Her outfit is too revealing for a toy aimed at young boys. The controversy only boosts sales. Jungle Pam existed before the internet, before social media, before viral videos. But decades later, she becomes an internet sensation. In the 2000s, old photographs of Jungle Pam surface online. Vintage drag racing forums share images. Men who were teenage boys in the 1970s post their memories. Pam in the hot pants. Pam pouring bleach. Pam guiding the funny car. By the 2010s, she's everywhere. Reddit discovers her. Facebook groups dedicated to 1970s drag racing share hundreds of photos. Instagram accounts post vintage images of her. She becomes a meme before anyone knows what a meme is. Goals: young women comment. Legend, say the drag racing fans. Icon, say the nostalgists. In 2016, Jungle Pam makes a rare public appearance at an NHRA event in Pomona, California. Fans mob her. Men in their 50s and 60s line up for autographs, many holding vintage photos from the 1970s. Some are crying. For them, she represents their youth. The golden era of drag racing. A time when racing was wild and dangerous and fun. Pam is gracious. She signs everything. She poses for photos. She's older now, 62 in 2016, but still recognizable. Still smiling. Still the same person beneath the decades. In 2018, Motor Trend features Jungle Gym's 1970 Camaro funny car. The article prominently features Pam. In 2023, YouTube videos about her rack up millions of views. Titles like The Legend of Jungle Pam and What Happened to Jungle Pam draw massive audiences. Why does she remain relevant? Because she represents something lost. The 1970s drag racing scene was chaotic, dangerous, and free in ways modern racing isn't. It was smoky and loud and unregulated. Jungle Pam embodies that era. She's a time capsule of a world that doesn't exist anymore. Young people who weren't alive in the 1970s discover her and become fascinated. She's not trying to be famous. She's not on social media. She's not monetizing her legacy. She's just a woman who lived an extraordinary few years and walked away. That authenticity resonates. Jungle Pam changed drag racing forever, even though she only competed as a crew member for 4 years. She redefined the backup girl role. Before Pam, backup girls were largely anonymous. Girlfriends or wives who helped out. After Pam, teams realized that the right backup girl could become a draw. Several teams hired attractive women to stage cars, hoping to replicate Pam's appeal. None succeeded at her level. Pam was unique. Asterisk, she proved women could be essential in male-dominated motorsports. Asterisk, Pam wasn't driving. She wasn't turning wrenches in the way traditional crew members did. But she was essential. Without her, the Jungle Gym show didn't work. She proved that women could be integral to racing operations, even if their roles were different from men's. She influenced 1970s fashion. The hot pants and go-go boots look that Pam popularized became iconic. Young women across America copied her style. Fashion magazines took notice. She wasn't a model or an actress, but she influenced fashion as much as anyone in the 1970s. She created a template for performance motorsports. The idea of motorsports as entertainment, not just competition, owes a debt to Jungle Gym and Jungle Pam. They understood that drag racing could be a show, a spectacle. Pam was part of that formula. Modern motorsports marketing still uses elements they pioneered. Hall of Fame recognition. In 2024, Jungle Pam Hardy is inducted into the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame. The honor comes nearly 50 years after her time on the circuit. Don Garlitz, the big daddy of drag racing, personally calls to tell her about the induction. She's honored alongside drivers and mechanics and engineers. She never drove. Never built an engine. But her impact is undeniable. Jungle Gym's 1973 Vega funny car is voted the greatest funny car in NHRA history. Pam is inseparable from that legacy. When people think of that car, they think of her standing beside it. Now, at 70 years old in 2024, Jungle Pam Hardy lives quietly in Pennsylvania, not far from where she grew up. After Jungle Jim's death in 1977, Pam left drag racing permanently. She took a regular job. She lived a normal life away from cameras and crowds. For years, she stayed out of the public eye. In the years after Jim's death, she found love again. She married Fred Fry, a funny car owner, continuing her connection to the racing world. The marriage didn't last. They divorced after a few years. Later, she married Bill Hodgson, who tunes George Riadnar's Excalibur Corvette nostalgia funny car. They remain married as of 2024. Through Bill, Pam stays connected to the nostalgia racing circuit at the grassroots level. She occasionally attends vintage drag racing events. She's not performing, not staging cars, just attending, supporting, remembering. She maintains a Facebook page and website dedicated to Jungle Jim's memory and their time together. She shares vintage photos. She responds to fans. She keeps the history alive without exploiting it. Her net worth remains modest. Estimates range from $1.85 million to $3 million, accumulated through decades of work after racing. She made some money from her fame, autographs, appearances, licensing, but she never capitalized on her legacy the way modern influencers would. She didn't write a book, didn't do reality TV, didn't build a brand. She just lived her life. In 2024, when the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame inducts her, she's emotional. For nearly 50 years, her 4-year run on the circuit defined her public identity. Some people resent being defined by their youth. Pam seems to embrace it. She's proud of what she accomplished. Proud of the era she represented. Proud of the partnership with Jungle Jim. She could have made millions if she'd stayed in the spotlight. Reality shows. Endorsements. Social media influencing. She chose differently. She chose privacy. Normalcy. A life defined by more than hot pants and bleach buckets. Today she's just Pam. Not Jungle Pam. Not the sex symbol. Not the icon. Just a 70-year-old woman who once did something extraordinary and then walked away. That's the real legacy. She didn't need the fame to continue. She didn't need the validation. She lived an incredible few years, experienced tragedy, moved forward, and built a life on her own terms. The drag racing world will never forget her. Every time someone talks about 1970s funny cars, her name comes up. Every time Jungle Jim's Vega is displayed in a museum, her image is beside it. Every time young people discover vintage drag racing, they discover her. Jungle Pam Hardy didn't just stage funny cars. She staged a moment in time. A wild, dangerous, beautiful moment when racing was rock and roll and anything felt possible. She was 18 years old, walking down a street in Pennsylvania, and she said yes to an adventure. That adventure cost her youth, anonymity, and eventually the man who started it all. But it gave her immortality in a world that rarely remembers the people who didn't drive. She's the greatest backup girl in drag racing history. Not because she was the prettiest, though many think she was. Not because she worked the longest. She only worked 4 years. But because she was authentic. Essential. Irreplaceable. 50 years later, nobody's forgotten Jungle Pam. And nobody ever will.